Bronsted-Lowry concept, part 3, amphoteric substances. As we mentioned in the previous 2 parts, the scientists Bronsted and Lowry have come up with a concept for both acid and base and more comprehensive than the concept of arrhenius. So let's first get acquainted with the Bronsted-Lowry acids and bases together. Bronsted-Lowry acids. First, the arrhenius acids, who stipulated that the acid should contain an ionizable hydrogen atom in its composition, such as HCl, HCN, and H2SO3. Secondly, positive ions containing ionizable hydrogen atoms are also considered to be Bronsted-Lowry acids, such as NH4+, H3O+, and CH3 and H3+. While the Bronsted-Lowry bases, first, the arrhenius bases, who stipulated that the base should contain an ionizable hydroxide group in its composition, such as sodium hydroxide, potassium hydroxide, and lithium hydroxide. Second, neutral nitrogen compounds are Bronsted-Lowry bases, such as NH3, N2H4, and CH3NH2. Third, negative ions that do not contain hydrogen in their composition, such as S-2 ion and CO3-2 ion. Fourth, negative ions containing an organic lift, that is, resulting from the donation of carboxylic acid or alcohol to the proton, such as CH3, COO- and CH3O-. But some substances can react as an acid or as a base depending on the substance they are reacting with. These substances are called amphoteric substances. But what are these substances? So let's figure it out together. Amphoteric substances. Let's consider the behavior of the HSO3- ion in the following 2 equations. As we can see, HSSO3- has the behavior of a base in the first reaction because it accepted a proton from the acid. While in the second reaction, as we see, HSO3- has the behavior of acid because it donated a proton to the NH3 molecule. So the HSO3- ion is considered to be one of the amphoteric substances because it can react as an acid or as a base depending on the substance they are reacting with. So, amphoteric substances are substances that can react as an acid or as a base depending on the substance they are reacting with. Examples of amphoteric substances are water molecule H2O and negative ions that contain ionizable hydrogen atoms in their composition, such as HS minus, HCO3 minus, and HSO3 minus. And now, let's solve some exercises on amphoteric substances. In the first exercise, we will express equations showing the behavior of HS minus as an acid when interacting with N2H4 and as a base when interacting with HNO2. Here's HS minus is the acid in this reaction, so it will donate a proton and become S. As for the charge, as we learned in the second part of the Bronsted-Lowry concept, so we will use the line number. Since HS has one negative charge, and since it will donate a proton, then its charge will decrease. Thus, it will acquire a charge of -2. For N2H4, since is the base in this reaction, therefore, it will accept a proton and become N2H5. And its charge, as we see, will increase, so it will acquire a charge of +1. But when HS minus interacts with HNO2, here will behave as a base. Thus, it will accept a proton, becoming H2S, and its charge will increase, as we see, and becomes 0, that is, it doesn't have a charge. HNO2 is the acid in this reaction, so it will donate a proton and become NO2. Its charge will decrease, as we see, and therefore it will acquire a charge of -1. Another exercise here required to express equations showing the behavior of HCO3 minus as an acid when interacting with N2H4 and as a base when interacting with HNO2. When HCO3 minus reacts with N2H4, it will behave like an acid, so it will donate a proton and become CO3. Its charge will decrease, and as we see, it will acquire a charge of -2. N2H4 is the base in this reaction, so it will accept a proton and become N2H5. Thus, its charge will increase, and it acquires a charge of +1. Whereas, when HCO3 minus reacts with HNO2, it will behave like a base. So, it will accept a proton and become H2CO3. Also, its charge will increase and become 0, that is, it doesn't have a charge. HNO2 is the acid in this reaction, so it will donate a proton and become NO2. Also, its charge will decrease and acquire a -1 charge. Another exercise according to the Bronsted-Lowry concept: which of the following substances will behave as an acid, a base, or as an amphoteric substance? So to solve this question, we will use this form to classify the substances. The first example is NH4+, which is one of the positive ions containing hydrogen. Thus, it will behave as an acid during the reaction. N2H4 is one of the neutral nitrogen compounds. That is, it doesn't have a charge, so it will behave as a base during the reaction. C6H5COO- is a negative ion containing an organic lift, which resulted from the carboxylic acid donation of the proton, so it will behave as a base during the reactions. H2PO4- is a negative ion which contains ionizable hydrogen atoms in its composition, so it will behave as amphoteric substance. CH3 and H3+ is a positive ion containing ionizable hydrogen atoms, therefore it will behave as an acid during the reaction. F- is a negative ion that does not contain hydrogen, so it will behave as a base during the reaction. But despite the success of the Bronsted-Lowry in explaining acid-base behavior depending on the transition of the proton from acid to base during the reaction, however, this concept did not explain how the proton bends to the base. It also could not explain the acid-base behavior in some reactions, which do not involve proton transfer between substances. So, Lewis's concept of acid and base appeared, which is more comprehensive than the Bronsted-Lowry and arrhenius concepts, and we will learn about it in the next video. So be with us. Big thanks for watching. At the end, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to receive my new videos.